All stories on this channel are original works of fiction. Any resemblance to actual persons or events is purely coincidental. My name is Shen Yu, but inside the archive they call me the Raven Archivist. I collect the cases that official reports could never fully explain. Missing people, forgotten villages, closed roads, old photographs, witness statements, names that appear where they should not exist. Most people call them ghost stories. I call them files. And tonight I am opening one of them for you. This file begins on Hailu Island, inside a hotel where the cameras forgot 43 seconds, and a bronze statue learned to bow. Welcome to the Raven Files.
The first night Guihai saw the bronze statue, the digital clock in the Guihai Hotel lobby stopped at 3:17 a.m. He had just finished filming on the coast. Dawn was less than an hour away, but the wind crossing Hailu Island still carried the cold taste of salt. It slipped beneath his coat and clung to his hair like mist. The rest of the crew had already gone upstairs. The lobby was almost empty. Weak yellow lights, the steady hum of the air conditioner, a small bronze service bell sitting on the front desk. Guihai walked to the elevator and pressed the button for the third floor. The stainless steel doors reflected a tired man in a black coat. Then the bell on the desk rang by itself. Once. Twice. On the third ring he saw the statue. It stood in the hallway leading toward the hotel's older west wing. Nearly 6 feet tall, gray-green with oxidation. A savage human face carved above a suit of ancient armor. Its hands were pressed together over its abdomen. But there was another face there. A cat's face raised from the bronze between its folded arms. The eyes were cloudy white. The mouth was slightly open, almost smiling. Guihai assumed it belonged to the film crew. Some prop left in the wrong place after a night shoot. He raised his phone to take a picture. The moment the screen lit up, the statue turned its head. Not toward him, toward the security camera mounted on the ceiling. Then it lifted one bronze finger to its lips. Behind Guihai, the elevator doors opened. He stumbled backward inside and struck the third-floor button again and again. Just before the doors closed, the cat face on the statue's stomach blinked. Hotel security reviewed the footage the next morning. There was no statue. The recording showed Guihai standing alone in front of the elevator, staring into an empty hallway for exactly 43 seconds. After that, other things began to appear. A faceless figure behind the curtains. Wet footprints leading from the bathroom to the side of his bed, then stopping. Fingernails scratching from the inside of his door at 3:17 every morning. One night, a man whispered the name Guihai had abandoned 10 years earlier, back when he was still an unknown actor, Qiyu. No one on the current production knew that name. I saw an eye specialist, a neurologist, a psychiatrist. Every result came back normal. He changed rooms twice. The disturbances followed him. He moved to another hotel on the island. At midnight, he woke to find a crescent-shaped stain of green bronze beneath the skin of his palm. Finally, during a live stream meant to calm his fans, he asked whether anyone on Hailu Island had ever seen a bronze statue with a cat's face. That question brought my name to the top of the comments. My name is Bai Chi. Online, I was known as the fortune teller, who charged only 9.9 yuan per reading and accepted just 3 clients a day. Depending on which comment section you read, I was either a fraud, a publicity addict, or a woman trying to build a career out of ghost stories. 500 years earlier, I had served as a celestial master in Nanyue. When the kingdom collapsed, my name vanished from the official histories. Later generations believed I had died during the final burial rites of the last Nanyue king. They were only half wrong. I entered the tomb. I simply did not die there. After 5 centuries, insults from strangers on the internet did not trouble me. Chifeyu's frightened expression did not interest me either. Neither did the amount of money he offered. What caught my attention was the missing footage. 43 seconds. In the old non-UA boundary rights, 43 bell strokes marked the interval in which a soul had left the body but had not yet been registered by the underworld, a space belonging to neither the living nor the dead. And 3:17 a.m. was an opening hour in the old sacrificial calendar. I accepted the case. Qin Yan traveled with me. He was the only heir to the Qin family, a respected name in the antiquities trade. He was also the man who had spent months helping me search for Xu Yan. Xu Yan had appeared inside an ancient tomb in Lingnan. He had tried to cut out my heart, taken my blood, and vanished before we could learn who he truly served. Before our flight, Xingyan handed me a file. Xifeiyu has a connection to Xiuhian, he said. His first movie was financed through a company Xiuhian controlled. 3 years later, Qiyu changed his stage name to Qi Feiyu. That was when his career began to rise. Who chose the new name? No official record, but the paperwork was handled by one of Shuhan's secretaries. I turned the page. Shuhan had quietly invested in 5 of Qifeiyu's films. All 5 had succeeded. 4 of the productions had also suffered an accident, a disappearance, or a severe psychological breakdown. Each incident had been filed separately. No one had placed them side by side. What about Ding Zuyu? I asked. Qin Yan did not answer immediately. Ding Zuyu was his closest friend. 5 years earlier, during a counterfeit antiquities deal near the border, Qin Yan had been locked inside a refrigerated warehouse after refusing to sign a false receipt. Ding was the only person who went back for him. He searched the warehouse row by row, knocking on each metal door in a pattern. 2 short knocks, 1 long knock. Qin Yan heard him and answered with the same rhythm. Ding broke the lock before the Qin family's people could trace the signal. They argued constantly after that. But whenever one disappeared, the other was always the first to search. 3 days before our flight, Ding received a message from Lin Miao, the woman who had ended their relationship 2 years earlier. She claimed she was on Hailu Island and wanted to see him. Before boarding his plane, Ding sent Xin Yan a voice message. She has never apologized first in her life. If this is another joke, I'm coming back and making you drink with me for 3 straight days. At the end of the recording, a faint bell rang. Ding was still inside a mainland airport. He reached the island that night and disappeared. Ding's phone last, connected to a cell tower near the Guihai Hotel. Sugan drew both Qifeiyu and Ding Zuyu to the same place, Qin Yan said. That is not a coincidence. I closed the file. Not only them. He looked at me. I tapped my airline ticket with one finger. The person Xiuhian truly wants on that island may be me. Guihai stood on the western shore of Hailu Island, more than 2 miles from the nearest residential district. From the coast, it looked less like a resort and more like an old estate that had been rebuilt several times without ever surrendering its original bones. The center was a 7-story concrete block. 2 lower wings extended from either side, built from gray stone, with curved traditional roofs and narrow windows like observation slits. Production trucks filled the driveway. Crew members moved equipment in silence. No one raised a voice. Whenever a piece of metal struck the pavement, everyone turned toward the lobby as though afraid they had awakened something. Xin Yan stopped at the front steps. There is wind outside, he said. But the chimes are not moving. 6 bronze tubes hung beneath the entrance roof. The trees in the courtyard bent toward the sea, but the tubes remained perfectly still. I examined the stone beneath our feet. A narrow groove ran from the western pillar across the threshold and vanished beneath the red entry carpet. It was too smooth to be a natural crack. Once someone had carved a very large circle around the building. Do not step across that line, I said. Qin Yan moved around it. Behind the front desk stood a young woman wearing a badge that read Luo King. Dark circles bruised the skin beneath her eyes. Her face was pale, but her movements were precise, as though she had repeated them thousands of times. She checked our reservation and handed us 2 keycards. Rooms 318 and 319, she said. Mr. Key is in 317. I glanced at the emergency map beside the lobby door. Does this hotel have a room 317? Her fingers stopped against the counter. Of course, Luo Qing said. That is strange. The evacuation map ends at room 316. Her smile tightened. The building was renovated. That map is old. She reached below the desk and produced another floor plan. Qin Yan took it without comment. Inside the elevator, he placed the 2 maps side by side. The newer plan showed a hallway nearly 23 feet longer than the old one. The outside dimensions of the building had not changed. Where did they hide 23 feet, he asked. They may not have hidden it anywhere. I watched the floor numbers rise. Some rooms appear only when someone needs them to appear. The 3rd floor hallway was carpeted in dark red. Room 317 stood between 316 and 318. Its door was narrower than the others and had no peephole. A thread of black silk had been tied around the handle. The other end disappeared beneath the door. Qin Yan crouched. A marker. A soul-guiding thread. Before I could touch it, the door flew open. Tifeiyu rushed into the hall. He wore a cap, dark glasses, and a medical mask. The moment he saw me, he seized my wrist. Master Bai, you finally came. His skin felt as cold as seawater. I pulled free and examined his palm. A faint green crescent lay beneath the skin below his thumb. Not dirt, not a bruise. Inside room 317, the curtains were closed despite the afternoon sun. 4 small cameras had been positioned in the corners. Sleeping pills and anti-anxiety medication covered the table beside 2 paper talismans purchased from other practitioners. One talisman was burned black along the edge. Tifeiyu described every disturbance from the beginning. He spoke quickly but not incoherently. He remembered the time, position, and sequence of each event. That made me believe he was telling the truth. It also made something else clear. Each haunting had been staged like a film scene, not merely to frighten him, to force him to remember specific details. What was the figure behind the curtain wearing, I asked. A gray raincoat. Were the wet footprints bare number work boots? Zigzag tread. The man who spoke your old name, young or old, older. A rough voice. He said, Kiyu, give my name back. Kifeiyu swallowed. Have you seen that coat or those boots before? No. His eyes shifted to the right. Qin Yan saw it too. Mr. Qi, he said, we are not here to protect your public image. If you hide one detail, the thing following you will use that detail to kill you. Kifeiyu clasped his hands together. After a long silence, he opened a drawer and removed an old production photograph. He was thinner then, standing in the back row under the name Kiyu. In the front stood the director, 2 producers, and a man wearing a gray raincoat. Someone had scratched the man's face from the photograph with a sharp object. His name was Chenmo Chi Feiyu said. He managed the props on my first film. Chenmo disappeared during the final week of production, Kifeiyu continued. The police said he ran away because of debt. Where was the film shot? He looked around room 317. Here. The place was called Hailu Guest House back then. The room seemed to grow colder. Why did you hide that? Qin Yan asked. Because I did not want anyone reopening the case. That movie was my only chance. After Chenmo vanished, production stopped for 3 days. Suhin arrived, handled the police and insurance problems, and put in enough money to finish the film. He said I had to change my name if I wanted to escape my bad luck. He chose Feiyu. Feiyu nodded. He also gave me a jade pendant. He said I had to carry it whenever I worked. I wore it for 7 years, then lost it. Did you truly lose it? He went to his suitcase and pulled the lining away from the bottom. Beneath it was a small wooden box. Inside lay a round piece of gray-green jade. At its center, the natural grain resembled a cat's pupil. The instant the box opened, the service bell rang from the lobby 3 floors below. Once, twice, 3 times. Something beneath the jade pulsed like a heartbeat. I lifted it between 2 fingers. It was not cold like stone. It was warm like human skin. 8 tiny characters had been carved into the back. 4 represented Kiyu's date and hour of birth. The other 4 belonged to someone else. Along the edge was a nearly erased symbol, a 3-story white tower. I had seen that shape on old ritual instruments from the Imperial Preceptor's Tower of Nanyue. The carving had been deliberately sanded down, so I said nothing yet. Qin Yen photographed it and sent the image to his family's researchers. I placed the jade inside a circle of red thread and scattered incense ash around the box. Every knot in the thread tightened at once. All of them pointed toward the wall behind the bed, not toward the hallway door, toward the wall. I knocked against it. Hollow. Qifeiyu stepped back. Room 3166 is behind that wall. No, Qin Yen said, opening the floor plans. According to the outside measurements, there should be a 23-foot void behind this room. 23 feet had disappeared. I ordered Qifeiyu to move to the first floor. Before he left, I tied an ancient coin to a red cord and placed it around his wrist. Do not remove this. Do not live stream. Do not look into a mirror after 3 in the morning. If anyone calls the name Chi-Yu, even if the voice belongs to your mother, do not answer. He held the coin tightly. Master Bai, does that thing want to kill me? I do not know yet. Then what does it want? I looked at the cat-eye jade. Perhaps it does not want your life. Perhaps it wants you to remember the lives of everyone else. After he left, we did not break the wall. A room hidden by ritual geometry might not occupy a normal physical location. Strike the wrong surface, and instead of exposing what was concealed, you could create an exit for it. I inspected the brass room numbers along the hallway. The plate marked 3117 was newer than the others. Its screws had not oxidized. Beneath it, carved directly into the wood, was a single Chinese character. Guide. Room 317 was not a room number. It was a sole guiding position. Qin Yan found a narrow cavity above the door frame. Inside were a strand of hair, a human fingernail clipping, and a strip of paper with the name Kayu written in red ink. Someone prepared this room specifically for him, Qin Yan said. And that person knew his old name, birth information, and filming schedule. A manager, an assistant, an investor, or the hotel itself. We returned to the lobby. Luo Qing was gone. A fresh ring of water marked the front desk beside the silent bronze bell. The staff room door stood slightly open. Inside, we found a desk, 4 identical uniforms, and a thick duty log. Every shift for the past 2 months had been signed by Luo Qing. Morning, afternoon, overnight. No days off. One person cannot work 60 days without sleeping, Qin Yan said. The 4 uniforms were the same size. Each had the same wear mark on the left cuff. A staff photograph from 5 years earlier hung on the wall. 8 names were written on the back. 7 had been crossed out. We found electricity records beneath the desk. A basement level marked B3 had consumed power every month. The elevator offered only B1. The official construction plans showed no 3rd basement. A soft cough sounded behind us. Luo Qing stood in the doorway. She did not appear surprised to see us searching the room. She looked at the duty log and said, "You should not be in here." "You should not have been working alone for 5 years," Qin Yan replied. She closed the door. I had no choice. Where are the other 7 employees? They left. Left the hotel. Or left this world. Her face changed. I placed the cat-eye jade on the desk. The moment she saw it, Luo Qing stepped backward. "You know this object." "No. You looked at it before you looked at either of us." For a long time, no one spoke. Outside, a production cart rolled across the lobby. Its wheels stopped directly outside the staff room door. No one knocked. Seconds later, it rolled away. Luo King lowered her voice. 10 years ago, Chen Mo found that jade beneath the old tree in the courtyard. He said there was a sealed chamber under the roots. The night he disappeared, every security camera lost exactly 43 seconds. You were here then. My father managed the guest house. I was in high school and helped after class. After Chen Mo vanished, my father forbade me from coming back. 3 months later, he died in a car accident. And the 7 employees. Over the last 5 years, each one heard the bell at 3:17. The first resigned and disappeared. The second was found on the beach alive but unable to remember her own name. After that, anyone who heard the bell left the island. You stayed. My father left a message. He said that if no one from the Luo family guarded this place, the thing beneath the tree would open the door. Your family guarded the boundary. Instead of answering, she rolled up her sleeve. A ring of scars encircled her wrist like cat claws. The pattern matched the jade. My family called it the Myomian Genshu, the cat-faced guardian Luo Qing said. It was not an evil object. Not at first. During the non-Yue period, it stood along the western boundary. It kept the living from wandering into the underworld, and the dead from returning. What changed? Someone reversed the formation. After that, it stopped guarding the door. It began searching for keys. Chifeiyu is one of them. Number Luo King looked directly at me. Hai is only the bell that summons the person carrying the true key. The room went still. Qin Yan turned toward me. Who carries the true key? I asked. Before Luo King could answer, Xin Yan's phone vibrated. His researchers had identified the second 8 characters birth chart carved into the jade. They belonged to Chen Mo. They had also found an old prop transfer record. A bronze key stamped with the number 3116 had belonged to Chen Mo. It disappeared from inventory the night he vanished. No one filed a report because room 3117 did not officially exist. The jade preserved fate. The key preserved a path for the soul. Both had been prepared 10 years earlier. An object carrying the birth information of 2 people usually served one of 2 purposes: marriage or exchanged fate. Qifeiyu's pendant was not a protective charm. It linked his fortune to Chen Mo. After Chen Mo disappeared, Kaiyu abandoned his birth name. Someone built an artificial destiny around the name Qifeiyu. From that point forward, his luck rose with unnatural speed. That did not mean he lacked talent. No ritual could sustain a weak actor at the top of an industry for 10 years. But whenever his career should have declined, someone connected to one of his productions suffered an accident, vanished, or lost part of their mind. They were like boards ripped from a bridge and laid beneath one man's feet. Qifeiyu did not know the entire truth, but he knew more than he had admitted. We found him in a first-floor lounge sitting near the window, with the red cord wrapped tightly around his wrist. When I told him that the second birth record belonged to Chen Mo, all color left his face. That is impossible. Have you ever examined the back of the jade? Chuqian told me never to remove it from its pouch. I thought it was superstition. You wore it for 7 years and stored it away for 3. Why did you stop? Qifeiyu stared at his hands. 3 years ago, a supporting actress fell down a staircase on one of my sets. She survived but remained in a coma for more than a month. The night before the fall, the jade became hot enough to burn me. I put it away. What happened to your career afterward? My next film failed. 2 endorsement deals were cancelled. Sugin called and said my fortune was dying. He told me everything would return to the way it was before, unless I wore the jade again. Did you? Number 6 months later, I received an exceptional script and became popular again. I told myself the jade had been a coincidence. The green mark beneath his palm faded slightly as he confessed. Only slightly. But I saw it. The jade also missed one pulse. Did anyone suffer an accident on that later production? He did not answer. The green mark darkened again. I understood part of the contract. It fed not only on stolen luck, It fed on what the wearer knew and chose to bury. Secrets were the knots. Silence was the rope. You do not have to speak to the entire world tonight, I told him. But from this moment on, every time you deliberately hide a fact connected to that jade, the contract will tighten. Chifeyu stared at the stain beneath his skin. His silence was already an answer. A lighting technician had been electrocuted and permanently disabled. The incident was blamed on workplace negligence. Chifeyu secretly compensated the man's family. But he never asked why he had dreamed of the bronze statue standing beside his bed the night before the accident. You did not cause these events, I said. But once you began to suspect the truth and chose silence, you allowed someone else to keep using you. For the first time since we met, shame replaced fear on his face. What do I do? Remember everything. He told us that during the week Chenmo disappeared, the production filmed a ritual scene beneath the old tree. The director wanted authenticity. Xiuhan provided an antique bronze statue. No one knew where it came from. Chenmo objected. He said the metal smelled of blood, and the interior was hollow. The night before he disappeared, he warned Qiyu not to sign any document changing his name. By morning, Chinmo was gone. Susan claimed he had stolen money and fled. 3 days later, Caillou signed a new contract and became Kifeyu. Did the statue already have the cat face? Qinyan asked. I do not know. It was covered in black cloth. The crew uncovered only the head for the shot. Does the footage still exist? The original film burned in a warehouse fire. The director may have an early edit. Before we could contact him, Qin Yan received word about Ding Zuyu. Ding had been found behind a bar on the south side of the island, lying beside a dumpster like a man who had passed out drunk. His blood alcohol level was nearly 0. In his hand was a bronze key stamped 317. Its corrosion matched old photographs of Chenmo's missing prop key. The last tooth had been hammered crooked. An alley camera showed Ding kneeling on the pavement and striking the key against the curb 3 times before collapsing. Whatever was happening to him, he had tried to prevent the key from fitting completely. Inside his coat was a 10-year-old expired ferry ticket and a note written in Lin Miao's handwriting. Do not let them take your name. A bartender remembered Ding receiving the key from someone wearing a Guihai uniform. The camera captured only half the person's body. The badge on the chest read, Chen Mo. A man missing for 10 years had handed Ding the object that once belonged to him, or something wanted us to believe he had. Ding woke in another hotel. He remembered meeting Lin Miao getting into a car and traveling along a road lined with red lights. Then he stood before an ancient tower surrounded by fire. Someone asked for his true name. He refused to answer. Chains lifted him from the ground, and he listened to a cat cry for what felt like hours. The bar's security footage told a different story. Ding never left the alley. He walked outside at 1:08 a.m., sat against the wall and remained motionless until he was found. His body had stayed behind. His soul had been taken somewhere else. Xin Yan wanted to go to him immediately. I stopped him. If his soul had returned completely, he would not remember the tower so clearly. Part of him is still trapped there. Is he in danger? Yes. A body without its full soul becomes an empty room, and empty rooms do not remain empty forever. My phone vibrated. An unknown account had sent me a 43-second video. No message, no sender name. The footage appeared to come from an old camera positioned low to the ground. Chinmoke stood beneath the courtyard tree 10 years earlier, digging through the soil. Behind him, the bronze statue remained covered in black cloth. He turned toward the lens. If anyone finds this recording, remember this. The statue did not choose Qiyu. It is using Qiyu to summon Paichi. The video ended. Xinyan looked at me. Chenmo knew you 10 years ago, no. Then who forced him to say your name? I checked the delivery time. 3:17 a.m. The message had been sent from Ding Zuyu's phone. We did not call it back. I placed the phone on the table, switched on the speaker, and balanced an ancient coin across the screen. After 3 rings, the call answered itself. No one spoke, only dripping water, and the slow drag of metal across stone. Qin Yan called his friend's name. The breathing on the other end stopped. Then a woman whispered in Lin Miao's voice. Yan, come down to B3. Zuyu is waiting. Qin Yan's hand tightened around the phone. He knew that voice. He had heard Lin Miao use the name Yan many times. But the real Lin Miao had left China 8 months earlier. Immigration records placed her in Canada. She had never traveled to Hailu Island. Whatever contacted Ding had copied her face and voice from old recordings. Xujin knew Ding would not refuse her, Qin Yan said. More than that. I lifted the coin from the screen. The call ended immediately. I knew the private name she used for you. We divided the investigation before nightfall. Qin Yan contacted the director of Caillou's first film. Loa King and I searched the courtyard and the hotel's private records. The old tree stood in the center of a stone-paved square. Its trunk was so wide that 3 adults could barely encircle it. Its roots rose from the ground like veins. On the east side sat an empty stone platform. 4 bronze footprints remained on its surface. 12 narrow holes had once surrounded the platform. 11 were filled. The 12th remained open. Luo Qing said her father had discovered that one of the boundary spikes had been removed. Before he could replace it, Xuzhen purchased the hotel through a chain of shell companies. Soon afterward, Luo Qing's father died. Then you prove Xuzhen controls the property, I asked. No. The records end with 3 holding companies. But every year on the anniversary of my father's death, someone sends me an envelope of money and tells me to remain at the hotel. You accepted it? Qin Yan asked when he rejoined us. Yes. His expression hardened. I did not judge her. Some people remain because of loyalty, some because of fear. Others stay close to the person who killed someone they loved because distance feels too much like surrender. Where did the money go? I asked. Luo King opened a small safe beneath the desk. Inside were copied land deeds, photographs of boundary spikes, disappearance timelines, and lists of people marked by the hotel. One list contained 13 guests connected to room 317. A second file contained 24 employees and film workers who had shown signs of soul loss after staying at Guihai. 37 people in total. Every case led back to a project financed by Xu Hyun. I used the money to investigate, Lu King said, but I could never enter B3. Whenever I approached the door, I heard my father calling me. Show us the door. She led us to the old laundry room. 3 industrial dryers stood against a patched section of concrete wall. There was no handle, no frame, no visible seam. When I brought the cat-eye jade closed, the unplugged dryers began turning. Something struck the inside of the metal drums. 43 times. I marked the wall with incense ash. A door slowly appeared. It did not open. 3 recesses had been carved into its surface. One was round the size of the jade. One was long and narrow-shaped for the key marked 317. The third was a human handprint. I studied the engraved lines. These were not 3 separate keys. They were 3 confirmations within a single rite. The jade was the fate exchange seal. It preserved the stage name Qi Feiyu Qiyu's true birth pillars, and the fortune transferred into his life beneath that new name. The bronze key was the soul path key. It had absorbed Chen Mo's final spiritual trace and later connected to Ding Zuyu when Ding accepted it willingly. The handprint was the boundary seal. The objects could reveal the physical path to B3. But the true gate between the human world and the underworld required living participants. The fate exchange seal needed Caillou to accept or reject the borrowed destiny. The soul path key needed the portion of Ding Zuyu's soul still trapped within the formation. And the boundary seal needed the blood of the exact person whose life mark had been copied. 3 objects, Qin Yan said. The jade tied to Qiyu, the key tied to Ding, whose hand opens the boundary. I held my palm a few inches from the recess. The lines on the door glowed. Luo King inhaled sharply. The print belonged to me. I remembered the Lingnan tomb. When Xu Jian attempted to take my heart, his blade had cut through this same palm. He had not taken blood alone. In old non-Yue ritual practice, blood carrying a complete palm pattern could preserve part of a person's life mark. Xu Jian had not guessed the shape of my hand. He had copied it months earlier. I sealed the door with paper talismans. We were not ready to open it. The old director sent us his surviving rough cut near sunset. The file lasted 6 minutes and was badly damaged. In the ritual scene, the young Qiyu knelt before the covered statue and recited a prayer asking for a change of fortune. The words were not in the original screenplay. Xu Yugen had delivered a replacement page minutes before filming. Qin Yan enlarged the final seconds. As Caillou spoke the last line, Chen Mo rushed into the frame and pulled the black cloth from the statue. The cat face on its abdomen had been pierced through the forehead by a black metal spike. Before the camera cut, Chen Mo shouted, "Do not let millions of people look at it." I watched the footage 3 times. The filmed ritual was not the true ritual, I said. Qin Yan understood first. The camera was. Every person who watched the movie also looked at the marked statue. Human attention is a form of energy. A few viewers mean nothing. Millions of eyes fixed on the same symbol would create a 10,000 eyes formation. The first movie had failed at the box office, so the gate opened only a crack. But it was enough to keep Chen Mo as an anchor and bind Qi 317 to his soul path. Juhan needed Caillou to become famous before attempting the ritual again. In Luo Qing's father's notebook, one sentence had been underlined 3 times. A naming contract grows stronger when its bearer conceals the truth. It weakens when the truth is spoken before witnesses. The changing mark on Qiu's palm had already confirmed that rule. We did not yet know how many witnesses were required, but we knew the mechanism existed before the new 10,000 eyes formation was complete. Qifei's frightened livestream had not been an accident. The first commenter to recommend Baiqi used an account created that same day. Within 2 minutes, thousands of other accounts repeated my name. Qin Yan's investigators traced most of them to one media management company. Xu Hian had not waited for an opportunity. He had manufactured one. He frightened Qi Yu until the actor went live. He pushed my name into the comments. I lured Ding Zuyu to the island, so Qin Yan could not remain uninvolved. Then he assembled the Fate Exchange seal, the Soul Path key, and the copied boundary seal. I was waiting for the 3 living people tied to them to enter his formation willingly. Then we leave the island now, Qin Yan said. Too late. A bell began ringing in the courtyard. Not 3 times, continuously. The hotel lost power. Emergency lights turned every corridor red. Guests and crew members stepped from their rooms holding phones that had switched on by themselves. Every screen showed the same image, the bronze statue beneath the old tree. A countdown appeared below it. 00, 43, 42, 41. Qi Feiyu's phone opened a live stream while he slept in the first-floor room. The viewer count climbed from 10,000 to 100,000, then 1 million. The feed was mirrored across hundreds of accounts controlled by Suhan's media companies. Paid advertisements, automated links, and every display screen inside the hotel redirected viewers toward the same image. The audience was not coming from Qifei's account alone. It was being collected from multiple directions and poured into the formation. Someone had seized the entire media system surrounding him. In the live stream, the door behind the sleeping actor slowly opened. The bronze statue entered the room. We reached him with 19 seconds remaining. The door was locked from the inside. Xin Yan struck it with his shoulder. It did not move. I pressed my palm against the wood. The space beyond it was no longer an ordinary room. Cold depth pulled at my hand like an open well. Step back. I traced one character across the door with my fingertip. The wood split down the center. The door burst inward. Fog covered the room. Kifeyu sat upright on the bed with his eyes open, but he did not respond. The statue stood behind him. One bronze hand rested on his shoulder. The other held the cat-eye jade. His phone floated in the air, still broadcasting. 3 seconds. 2. 1. The cat face on the statue opened its eyes. More than 3 million people were watching. I threw a talisman into the camera. The screen went black as the countdown reached 0. But beneath our feet, a stone door opened. The entire hotel shook. The statue did not attack. It tilted its head toward me, then withdrew through the wall as though sinking into dark water. Shifeyu fell from the bed. A black thread appeared beneath the skin of his chest, running from his collarbone toward his heart. The formation has started, I said. But it is not complete. Qin Yan lifted Kifeyu from the floor. What does it still need? 3 confirmations. The jade had been taken, but the borrowed fortune could not become a sacrifice unless Kiyu entered the formation or willingly accepted the false identity created by the contract. The soul path key remained connected to Ding Zuyu. As long as part of Ding's soul was held, the key could drag other souls toward B3. The copied handprint could reveal the path below the hotel. It could not fully open the 3 realms gate without my living blood touching the controlling spike. Suhan did not merely need 3 objects. He needed 3 living people to step into their assigned positions. I ordered Luo King to evacuate the production crew. No one was to carry a phone. No one was to look at any screen showing the bronze statue. Kifeyu tried to follow us, but the black line on his chest continued to spread. I tightened the red cord around him. You stay here. This began because of me. No. It began because someone used your fear and ambition. But you carry the fate exchange seal. Only you can untie the part of the contract that belongs to you. How? Tell the truth. Tell everything to the people watching, I said. Do not make yourself a victim. Do not protect your image. Name what happened. Chifeyu understood. Using a backup account, he began a new live stream. For the first time in 10 years, he publicly spoke the name Qi Yu. Hai described Sujin's involvement. The name changed the Jade Chenmo, and the accidents he had forced himself to call coincidence. His audience grew quickly. Within minutes, 3 sponsors terminated their contracts. Thousands of comments accused him of lying, exploiting tragedy, or inventing a supernatural scandal to save his career. But the black line on his chest slowed. Each time he correctly named a victim, the green stain beneath his palm faded. Each time he admitted something he had hid in the contract lost another knot. Suhan had used millions of eyes to strengthen the curse. Those same eyes could now become witnesses to its destruction. The instrument chosen to spread the ritual had become its weakness. Xin Yan and I left for the hotel where Ding Zuyu had been taken. During the drive, Qin Yan remained silent. His hands were clenched in his lap. What are you thinking? I asked. If Shu Yan wanted you, I should never have allowed you to come. Do you believe I would have stayed away without you? At least he would not have had Ding to use as bait. Ding was targeted because Shugen understands you. You can blame yourself for the rest of your life. That will not return his soul. Qin Yan looked at me. You speak about life and death as though they are pieces in a calculation. I have watched too many people die. That does not mean you are not afraid of losing anyone. I said nothing. 500 years is long enough to learn how not to name the things you fear. But Qin Yan was right. I did not fear my own death. I feared watching another person disappear, and then continuing to live for centuries with the memory. Ding Zuyu lay unconscious in the South Island Hotel, his face covered in cold sweat. The key marked 3117 had disappeared from his pocket. A faint door had formed on the wall opposite the bed. Behind it, Lin Miao called his name. Xin Yan stepped toward it. I caught his arm. That is not her. Whatever it is, it has part of Ding, and it wants you to open the door yourself. I placed a small mirror in front of Ding. In the reflection, his body was not lying on the bed. He was chained inside a red tower. Another figure hung beside him, Kifeyu. But the real Kiyu was still live streaming at Guihai. That is the portion of his fate taken by the contract I said. Hyugin has been cultivating it for 10 years. Ding's eyes opened. His pupils were cloudy white. He seized Kinyan's wrist. An older man's voice came from his throat. Do not enter B3. The 12th spike is in the cat's heart. Chenmo, I asked. Ding turned toward me. The key. The voice broke between breaths. I held it on my final night. When Ding accepted it, the trace of my soul inside the bronze connected with his weakened spirit. I am not possessing this body. I am speaking through the same soul path before the hotel pulls him deeper. Ding had not been chosen at random. Xu then used Lin Miao's image to make him accept the key willingly. Then he turned Ding into a relay between Chenmo B3 and Qin Yen. I did not steal money, Chenmo said. I did not run away. I removed the spike from the statue because I believed it was imprisoning something evil. Chenmo continued. I was wrong. The spike did not imprison the cat. It controlled the cat. Chujian drove it into the guardian, not Shujun. The voice tightened as though something had closed around Ding's throat. He is only a servant. The one behind him knows your true name. Hu Ding's face contorted. A black hand reached from the mirror and closed around his reflected body. I shattered the glass. Ding collapsed. Chenmo left only one final warning. When the statue bows, do not look at the person standing before it. The false door vanished from the wall. A thin plate of bronze slid from beneath Ding's pillow. It held a map of B3 and the same 3-story white tower symbol carved along the jade's edge. A fine line extended from the position of the 12th spike beyond the hotel foundation toward the sea. There it ended at a tower symbol. At the time, I assumed it marked direction. But the arrangement of the 12 spikes was now unmistakable. It was a corrupted form of the 12 boundary anchors, a rite known only within the imperial preceptor's tower of Nanyue, the place where my teacher had lived. My teacher died on the night the capital fell. I buried him with my own hands. We returned to Guihai shortly before 3 in the morning. The building was almost empty. Luo Qing had moved most of the crew to a resort on the eastern shore. Only Kiyu, his assistant, 2 security officers, and a technical team remained. The technicians had disconnected the hotel network. It did not matter. Every screen in the building still came alive at random, showing the ancient tower surrounded by fire. Tayu had finished his confession. In less than an hour, he lost 3 endorsement contracts and became the target of a public storm. The black thread across his chest, however, had narrowed to the width of a hair. He showed me a message from Xu Jian. Bring Baiji to B3 if you want to save Ding Zuyu and Chenmo. If you refuse at 317, Guihai will gain 37 empty rooms. The number matched Luo Qing's files. 13 guests tied to room 317. 24 employees and film workers marked through other parts of the hotel. Xiuyan had preserved their names' birth data and traces of spiritual energy. He could pull their souls from any distance once the gate opened. I am going with you, Qiyu said. You carry the Fate Exchange seal. That is why Chu Hin needs you inside the formation. The jade alone is not enough. Then I have even more reason to go. You may be the sacrifice. He gave a tired smile. I lived 10 years with luck that may not have belonged entirely to me. If I keep hiding, I will never know how many people paid for it. I did not stop him. Luo Qing led us to the laundry room. The door to B3 was now fully visible. The cat-eye jade rested inside the circular recess. The key marked 317 had been inserted into the narrow opening, but the tooth ding had hammered crooked prevented it from turning through the final notch. Light around the lock flickered. The soul path could not close completely. Only the handprint remained empty. Sugan placed 2 keys without appearing, Qin Yan said, because he never intended to stand in front of this door. I placed my palm into the recess. The wall opened. Air flowed up from below, not damp air, ancient incense. The staircase descended farther than the height of the hotel allowed. Bronze mirrors covered both walls. Each reflected a different person. Chinmo, the missing employees, crew members injured on Caillou's productions. None of them looked at us. Every face stared towards something deeper beneath the hotel. After 13 steps, the reflections changed. The mirror beside Caillou showed an award ceremony. He stood beneath bright lights, younger than he was, now holding the trophy he had wanted all his life. There was no ordinary audience. Chenmo and the other victims sat in rows. Whenever Chiyu moved closer to the stage, one person lowered their head and began to fade as though their name were being removed. A voice whispered from the glass, "Keep the name Feiyu. Everyone will forget. You are still the chosen one." Caillou stopped. His hand lifted toward the mirror. "The name did not create your talent," I told him. "It only taught you that every success would disappear if you released the contract. That belief is Shuhan's true prison." He stared at the trophy. "If it belongs to me only because someone else lost their name, I do not want it." Chiyu began naming the people he remembered, one name at a time. Each name erased another row of seats. The mirror cracked. The award ceremony went dark. Tianyun's mirror showed Ding Zuyu chained at the end of a corridor. Ding shouted his name as a door closed behind him. To the left, Qin Yen could reach his friend. To the right, my reflection stood with a spike through my chest. He took half a step toward Ding, then stopped. Neither image cast a shadow. The real Ding would insult me before he begged for help, Qin Yen said. And the real Baichi would never stand still and wait to be rescued. He threw a marked coin between the images. Both dissolved into smoke. For the first time that night, he made a choice that did not begin with panic. Sujin wanted affection to become a leash. Qin Yen turned it into a reason to examine the evidence. Luo Qing's mirror showed her father behind the front desk. He told her she had been right to accept the money, right to stay, right to let the others leave alone. If she returned to him, the hotel would never take another person. Luo Qing cried, but she did not move. "My father always wrote with his left hand," she said. "The man in the mirror is holding the duty log in his right." She smashed the reflection herself. My mirror did not show the dead. It showed the imperial preceptor's tower on the night the capital burned. My teacher stood on the stone steps with his face untouched by fire. He told me that if I returned now, 500 years of loneliness would never have happened. For one breath, I almost believed him. Then I saw the white tower ring on his index finger. My teacher had always worn it on his middle finger. An old injury prevented his index finger from bending completely. I wrote one word across the glass: false. The mirror broke. Before the image vanished, the man smiled as if he had expected me to recognize the mistake. Chudan's voice drifted from below. Baiji still remembers every detail. Excellent. He had not created the mirrors only to delay us. He was measuring how each of us responded to the person or future we could not bear to lose. He needed to place us precisely inside the final right. From that point forward, no one looked directly into another mirror. The staircase ended inside a stone hall. The bronze statue stood at the center of a vast ritual pattern. Hundreds of black threads stretched from its body into the surrounding mirrors. The 12th spike had been driven through the back of its neck and emerged through the cat face on its abdomen. At the guardian's feet, Ding Zuyu and Qiyu's cultivated fate shadow were chained to separate stone pillars. Behind them rose a gate. 4 characters had been carved into the wooden sign above it. Shengren Wuru, the living may not enter. Xuzhen stood before the gate. After months of searching, this was the first time I had seen him clearly beneath steady light. He looked like an ordinary middle-aged businessman. Black coat, neatly combed hair, no visible weapon, no cruelty in his expression. Only his eyes were wrong. Too still. as if he were observing the world from somewhere far beyond it. Celestial Master Bai, he said. 500 years. Xin Yan drew a short blade from beneath his coat. How do you know her? Chu Han smiled. He did not answer. I examined the white tower ring on his hand, the 12-spike formation, the ritual characters written in a style I knew from the Imperial Preceptor's tower, the final pieces connected. You did not learn this from damaged manuscripts purchased in antique markets, I said. You knew the day I was taken to the tower. You knew the life mark in my blood. You knew I would identify the body I buried by the ring. Chu Jian's smile narrowed. The corpse I buried had been burned beyond recognition. I continued. Move the ring to another body, and I would complete the lie for you. Xin Yan looked from him to me. But you are not the architect, I said. The person who truly knows those details does not need to stand inside Guihai. You manage the money, the people, and the cameras. You are opening a road for someone on the other side. Bai Shukan said softly, You have always made explanations unnecessary. Who are you? Qin Yan demanded. Only the man who opens the road. It was not a confession, it was confirmation. He snapped his fingers. Every bronze mirror lit at once. Millions of small squares appeared across the mirrors. Phones, computers, television screens, all replaying Caillou's first live stream. The broadcast had ended, but the images continued to spread through copied clips, reposts, and automated channels. Every view was an eye. Every comment was a voice repeating a name. The 10,000 Eyes formation had completed itself. The bronze statue moved. It did not approach Kiyu. It knelt before me. For a moment, everyone mistook the gesture for submission. I studied the angle of its neck. The 12th spike forced the guardian to bow until the wound in the cat face aligned with my hand. The kneeling position was the final mechanical movement of the formation. The guardian is not recognizing me, I said. You are using it as an altar. Chu Yan did not deny it. When your blood touches the spike, the gate will open. Then the one waiting beyond it will return. The person you want me to believe is my teacher. The person you still call by that name. Qin Yan stepped in front of me. I looked at our positions in the formation. Caillou beside the Fate Exchange seal. Ding's soul tied to the soul path key. Xin Yan between them. And me before the spike. You did not need to control us, I said. You only needed to understand what each of us could not abandon. Xu Yan tilted his head. And you walked into the correct places yourselves. The black threads tightened around Ding. Qin Yan moved half a step, then stopped. From behind the guardian came two short knocks. One long knock. The signal from the refrigerated warehouse. I am alive. Find the correct location. Because Ding had damaged the final tooth of the key, the soul path had never sealed completely. A conscious fragment of him could still send a signal. The lesson from the mirror corridor changed Qin Yan's response. Instead of running toward the visible prisoner, he threw his knife toward the right-hand pillar. The blade severed a thread hidden in shadow. The false Ding on the left distorted and collapsed. The real Ding hung lower behind the statue. For the first time, Xu Jian frowned. His arrangement had shifted. Qin Yan slid across the floor, pulled Luo Qing away from a falling chain, and approached the real prisoner from the side. He moved more slowly than instinct wanted. That hesitation saved both of them from the first trap. Caillou pulled against the fate shadow chained to the pillar. The black line on his chest tightened. Headlines flooded the mirrors around him. Contracts canceled. Fans leaving. Roles he would never be offered again. Do not fight it with strength, I said. That shadow is not a second person. It is the promise that you will become worthless if you return what you borrowed. Caillou stopped pulling. He turned his back on the headlines and spoke his true name again. The black line slowed. I approached the bronze guardian. Before touching it, I took ash from a burned talisman and drew a small reverse seal in the center of my palm. I allowed no blood to fall. If Chenmo's warning was correct, blood passing through the reverse seal would not obey the command to open the gate. It would travel backward through the spike and erase the order controlling the guardian. Pai Chi Xinyan shouted, "Do not touch it. I am not opening the gate." I placed my marked palm against the spike. The metal pierced my hand. Blood ran across the cat face. The gate shook. For the first time, Shujian looked excited. Then every black thread reversed direction. They wrapped around my arm and burned to ash. The 12th spike did not lock the gate. It locked the guardian's will. My blood could open boundaries. But once it passed through the reverse seal, it moved backward into the metal and destroyed the command forced upon the creature. I pulled the spike free. A cat's roar shook the entire basement. The bronze shell split down the center. The thing emerging from it was not a man-eating demon. It was a massive black guardian beast, its body scarred by chains and covered in glowing red characters. It turned toward Shu Jian. For the first time, he stepped backward. "You promised," he began. The cat-faced guardian lunged. Sujin threw a mirror onto the floor. His body shattered into thousands of reflected pieces before the claws reached him. Only his black coat remained. He had never entered the chamber in his true body. Behind us, the gate began to open. The ritual had progressed too far to stop immediately. Through the narrow gap, I saw the burning ancient tower Ding had described. Dozens of human shapes moved toward the light. The guardian looked at me. There was no gratitude in its eyes, only the exhaustion of something forced to betray its purpose for years. "Help me close it," I said. The guardian lowered its head, not in submission, in agreement. I told Kifeyu to call his true name home. He stood inside the formation facing the fate shadow chained to the pillar. "Caillou," I said, "the name you were born with is not a shameful thing. Call it back." At first his voice barely formed. "I am Kiyu." The shadow lifted its head. The chains trembled. He said it again louder. "I am Kiyu. My talent did not come from the name Feiyu. I do not accept Chenmo's fate. I will not preserve another person's stolen fortune through silence. Whatever does not belong to me, I return tonight." The mirrors offered him two paths. On one side stood the brilliant image of Qi Feiyu adored by millions. On the other stood Qi Yu from 10 years earlier, wearing cheap clothes and holding a script with his name crossed out. Qi Yu walked toward the unknown actor. "I can begin again with this man," he said. The false fate shadow shattered before it reached him. Caillou removed the red cord from his wrist. He wrapped it around the cat-eye jade and threw the pendant into the center of the formation. The jade split in two. A stream of black energy escaped. I expected it to enter Chenmo's spirit. Instead, it divided into many threads and flowed into the mirrors containing the other victims. This had never been one life exchanged for one life. Chenmo had been used as the original anchor. Zuzan then layered the stolen fortune of every marked person over that first crime. Qifeiyu had been only the visible face of a much larger network. One mirror shattered, then another. Each broken reflection pushed the gate closed by another inch. Qin Yen cut Ding Zuyu's chains. The imprisoned portion of Ding's soul turned into a streak of light and rushed toward his body in the hotel across the island. He vanished from the pillar with a breath that sounded like a man waking from a long nightmare. Luo Qing stood before the final mirror. Her father appeared on the other side. This time he did not simply place his hand against the glass. He pointed toward the gate and motioned for her to remain at Guihai forever, just as she had remained for 5 years. Luo Qing studied him through her tears. Then she saw what the mirror had missed. His wrist carried no scar from the kitchen fire that burned him when she was 12. The image had been built from her memory, but it did not understand the whole man. "My father told me to stay long enough to find a way to close the door," she whispered. "He did not tell me to turn fear into my profession for the rest of my life." She lifted the heavy-duty log. And he never told me to die here. She smashed the mirror. 5 years of shift records burst into the air. The pages burned into points of white light instead of black ash. Every lamp in B3 went dark. Only a narrow opening remained between the gates. Then a human hand reached through. A white tower ring circled the middle finger. I stopped breathing. An old voice spoke from beyond the gate. A voice I had spent 5 centuries trying to forget. Shir. Only my teacher had called me that. Qin Yan looked at me. He did not ask whether the voice was real. He simply took my wrist and held it firmly enough to remind me that I was still standing on this side. The hand spread its fingers. You have waited 500 years for me. Step through and every question will be answered. I wanted those answers. I wanted to know whose body I had buried, why my teacher had abandoned the imperial preceptor's tower, who had made me immortal, who had erased my name from history, and why his symbol appeared in Shuhan's hands. But an answer purchased with 37 souls was not an answer. It was bait. I looked at the hand. My teacher once told me that a gatekeeper must never trust a voice coming from the other side. The fingers stopped moving. You doubt me. I doubt anyone who needs me to open a door. The guardian and I pushed against the gates. A roar of anger came from beyond them. The hand clung to the stone edge. Its skin blackened beneath the firelight. Before the gap closed, the voice laughed softly. Baiji, you are exactly as you were that night. The gates slammed shut. The formation collapsed into ash. B3 began to cave in. Qin Yan cut the last chains. Loa King helped Caillou toward the staircase. I followed more slowly. The wound in my palm had not yet closed. Qin Yan stayed behind me, one hand braced against my arm. The cat-faced guardian did not follow. It returned to the broken bronze shell and sat before the sealed gate like a soldier reclaiming an abandoned post. You intend to remain? I asked. It blinked once. Its tail traced a single character across the dust. Guard. I placed the 12th spike at its feet. No one will use this to command you again. The guardian opened its mouth. The spike melted into a bead of red bronze and vanished. The guardian placed one claw against the floor. A small bronze token shaped like a cat's eye separated from the stone and slid toward me. It was not part of the creature's body. It was a witness mark. A single permission to summon the guardian's ritual image before the same kind of witnesses who had once fed the 10,000 Eyes formation. We crossed into the laundry room. The stairway disappeared behind us. Concrete sealed the wall. The dryer stopped turning. The clock read 3:18 a.m. Only 1 minute had passed. Outside ocean winds struck the building. For the first time, all 6 bronze chimes beneath the entrance roof began to ring. Ding Zuyu woke at the South Island Hotel. He remembered no burning tower. He remembered only hearing Qin Yan call his name from a great distance. Chen Mo did not return in a living body. But the police received coordinates leading to a cavity beneath the courtyard tree. Inside were his remains and an old camera. After 10 years, his disappearance became a homicide investigation, and his name was finally returned to the case file. The actor the public still knew as Qifeiyu cooperated fully with investigators, looking into every company connected to Shuqian. His career suffered, but it did not collapse in the way he had feared. Some fans left, some remained. For the first time, he accepted a role under the name printed on his birth certificate, Qiyu. Luo Qing sold the hotel shares her father had left her. She used the money to assist families of the missing employees. Guihai closed indefinitely. The old wing was sealed. The courtyard tree remained standing. As for Shu Yan, the police found empty corporations, erased accounts, and legal representatives who claimed they had never met the real owner. Once again, he vanished. 3 days later, Qiyu held a live stream to thank the public. The comments were chaotic. Some believed him. Some accused him of using the scandal to promote a new film. One account challenged me to summon the bronze statue on camera. I planned to ignore it. Then I found one final passage in Luo Qing's father's notebook. The reversal of the 10,000 eyes formation was incomplete. The cancellation had to be witnessed within the same 43-count interval once used to separate the soul, and it required at least as many witnesses as the latest activation. Xiuhin had fed the curse with more than 3 million eyes. As long as the old recordings remained online, that attention could gather again and rebuild the formation. So I placed a phone in the Guihai courtyard and aimed it toward the empty stone platform. Qin Yan stood outside the frame. Sayu looked pale, but he remained beside me. I placed the cat-eye witness token on the stone. Then I raised my hand. A ritual image of the bronze statue stepped from the shadow of the tree. The true guardian remained beneath the hotel. What appeared before the camera was only the testimony it had allowed me to carry into the human world. The bronze was no longer corroded. The savage human face had become calm. The cat face on its abdomen kept its eyes closed. Chu Yan's automated media accounts were still scheduled to distribute the old images. Xin Yan's technical team seized the relay links and replaced them with the new broadcast. The viewer count climbed, 2 million, then 3. I spoke slowly so that every word would be recorded. Sayo no longer carries the fate exchange contract. Chenmo and every person whose name was taken have had their identities restored. Guihai is no longer a passage into the underworld. Anyone who uses this image to rebuild the formation will be pursued by the guardian of the boundary. Then I looked at the statue. It bowed toward the camera. Not to me, to the people watching. A witness confirming the cancellation. The live stream ended after exactly 43 seconds. Sayu sat down hard on the stone. Xin Yan exhaled and asked whether such a public display had truly been necessary. It is better for them to believe they witnessed an illusion, I said, than for someone else to use their disbelief to open the door again. On the ferry leaving Hailu Island, Qin Yan handed me his tablet. He had downloaded the broadcast and examined it frame by frame. There is something you should see. At the 42nd second when the statue bowed, every comment stopped for a single beat. One account appeared alone in the center of the screen. Its name was Baita Juren, Master of the White Tower. The account did not post a written comment. It sent a photograph. The image showed the Imperial Preceptor's tower 500 years earlier. It had been taken from an angle no camera of that period could have captured. Two people stood before the entrance. One was me when I was young. The other faced away from the viewer and wore the White Tower ring. A message appeared beneath the photograph. Guihai was only a side entrance. Xin Yan looked at me. Then where is the main gate? I enlarged the image. At the feet of the second figure stood a miniature bronze statue. The cat face on its abdomen stared directly toward the impossible camera. I remembered Chenmo's warning. When the statue bows, do not look at the person standing before it. During the live stream, when the statue lowered its head, everyone looked at the statue. No one looked at the reflection in the glass doors behind us. I replayed the footage. A man in white stood in the courtyard directly behind me. Sunlight hid his face. The ring of the Imperial Preceptor's tower was visible on his hand. He appeared in no earlier frame, only during the bow, and he was smiling. I turned off the screen. The ferry had already left the harbor, but the 6 bronze chimes at Guihai continued to sound across the water, though the island was growing smaller behind us. Once, twice. On the third ring, the cat-eye token in my pocket became hot. A line of white light appeared beside the ferry. It moved parallel to the vessel. Beneath the black water, the shadow of a long, narrow structure kept pace with us. It was not the reflection of the ferry. It had curved roofs, stone steps, 3 rising levels, the shape of the Imperial Preceptor's tower. Its shadow did not rest on the seafloor. It moved with the current, keeping the same distance from the ferry, like a gate choosing where it would open next. Then I understood the purpose of the 12th spike. Guihai had been a false anchor. The spike had chained the cat-faced guardian to the wrong boundary and pinned the tower's shadow beneath Hailu Island. When we freed the guardian, we freed the gate. Suhin had never been the one waiting beyond it. He was only the man who opened the road. The figure in white might have been my teacher. Or it might have been something that had learned his voice, his ring, and the shape of my memories. But after the night at Guihai, one fact was certain. The main gate had never been beneath the hotel. It was moving with us.
The official report may close the case. But not every file stays silent. Some roads still wait in the dark. Some names are still missing from the record. And some witnesses never truly leave the places they survived. The Guihai Hotel was sealed. The missing were named. The contract was broken. But somewhere beneath the black water, the Imperial Preceptor's tower was still moving. If another file is found, if another voice comes forward, I will open the archive again. Until then, this is Shen Yu, the Raven Archivist, and this file is now closed.